Hi, welcome to the Existential Stoic Podcast. Quick fix. I am Danny. I'm here with my buddy Randy.
Hey, Danny.
Hey, Randy. All right, so today our quick fix is being more creative. So for quick fix 14, why should we be more creative?
Well, the world is our oyster, and everything in it was created by people no smarter than we were. But there are some things in it where we just say, wow, and maybe you want to do stuff like that. And so by being more creative, it allows you to really contribute to the world.
I like that, right? Why not make a pearl, as they say?
Hmm.
It is
Exactly.
true. I think that's a great point. We often forget that most of the great, interesting, creations and these creative like insights were done by people just like us. So why not give it a shot? Why not try? Why not participate? But do that, we need to be more creative. So this week,
Hmm.
like always, for our quick fix, each of us came up with a few tips, right, to be more
Hmm.
creative. So since it's my week, I'm going to start. Um,
Hmm.
so for my first one, I have read. So I think reading is crucial. I think obviously to self development in general, but when we read, we learn to use our imagination and doing close readings like critical thinking. We exercise those muscles, which helps us not only see the world differently, but solve problems and find new ways to solve those problems. So I think reading is crucial because it helps us develop a lot of the tools that we need to be more creative thinkers and problem solvers.
Yeah, and I mean, I can tell from experience over the past year reading a ton of books, it definitely it allows you to link up so many different ideas that you couldn't see before. And just your exposure to ideas from reading is a lot larger than the ideas you would get exposed to from just say like watching Netflix.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that too about connecting ideas. Right? Once you start to realize the connections between all the things you're reading, doing, that's really when the creative muscles I think really get start to go. It's amazing how fast you start to see new connections and new ideas and new things, new possibilities. Which is
Mm-hmm.
your first one?
All right, so my first one is borrow from others or steal, but borrow from others. And this is something that,
Tomato,
you know,
tomato.
artists have done for years. You're not literally stealing it, but like you're stealing it in an interpretation that you can do. Like, for instance, the iPod wasn't the first MP3 player.
No,
There were like some other ones before them, like the Zune and everything like that. But they basically borrowed that idea and they perfected it, and it became like the creative icon for music. Hold 1,000 songs in your pocket. And so by borrowing from others, you can actually become way more creative because they can't see things the way that you see them, and you can't see things the way that they see them. But by taking what they've done and putting your own little touch on it, you can create something completely new.
what I like about that one too is when I'm doing creative writing, or even when I was writing essays, I remember being younger, trying to mirror other authors as just a way to practice too. And by doing that, by mirroring their style, their rhythm, their sound, it really helped me start to find my own and develop my own. So it's also a good way, I think, just to learn something, right? You have to sometimes mirroring other people, borrowing from them is a great way to sort of build your creativity and see things from a different way, right? A different angle. I think it's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome. Yeah. All right. So for my next one, I have try new things, new perspectives, and I think this is crucial too, right? So we really, if we're stuck in our own routine, I think creativity is often far away. We need to sort of challenge ourselves with new things. I prefer a hobby is a great way to do this. There were studies that have shown that scientists who had hobbies were better problem solvers in the lab. They had more creative thinking because basically they gave themselves time to do something fun, do something that wasn't under pressure. And while doing that, they learned new stuff. They learned to see the world differently, and it gave them a new perspective on the issues. So it works well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a great point. And having the hobbies, it allows you to be creative without the pressure. Because when you're doing stuff for work, uh, it always seems like there's pressure, and you feel like you have to do it right. You have to get it right the first time. You can't screw up. But when you're doing it as a hobby, you're actually allowed to be so much more creative because you don't have that pressure where you need to get it right. So you can be like, well, let's see if this works. and then you might discover something revolutionary.
Yeah, it's funny. I love like RC planes, and it's like a fun hobby. And I always loved it because like I can totally destroy them or break them because they're mine. So if I'm just messing around, trying out new things, like I don't have to worry about it. There's no pressure. So it's fun because you learn that way and you end up being
Dude,
more
literally
creative and figure out new
every time I've seen one of those, it takes off and then it just crashes into the ground and it's
things.
like over.
Done. Now they can be fun.
Yep.
All right. So you're second.
All right. So that was good. My next one is fake it. And so go in with the mindset, if I was the most creative person in the world, this is what I would do. Because you may be the most creative person in the world, but it's just your mind that tells you you're not. So like if you go in with the mindset that the most creative person would have, then you're much more likely to create something.
You know what I like about that too, though? The fake it till you make it idea also. Like the idea that I think a lot of people forget that confidence and, a positive perspective, the willingness to do something just takes a lot of times pretending like it's true. Because most people don't really know what they're doing all the time. They're not experts. Even if they've done something like a little bit, they're not like perfect at it. So just pretending like, you are creative, like you know what you're doing, you'll find those answers. It's amazing how it works, but it's like tricking yourself and it works. It's that, artificial confidence, maybe you could call it, right? Make it sound better. I don't know. I like that one. That's a great one, though. My last one's pretty easy. It's right. I think, getting ideas down, brainstorming is a great way just to get the creative muscles going and also just to think of new things. Because a lot of times I think, when we're out, we might have ideas, but we forget to write it down. We forget about it. We don't really explore all the possibilities. We don't go into depth with it and we miss something. So I think for creativity, I think writing things down is crucial. I can't tell you how many things I've lost because I didn't write it down, and I was so mad at the outset when I had the idea.
Yeah. Mixing pencil with paper, pen and paper, it does make a huge difference. Like writing down ideas that you have, like you were saying, because if you don't write them down in the moment, they're going to disappear. And then just being able to continue with those ideas, to actually hash them out on paper, that definitely helps. So my last one would be listen to your inner voice.
Oh,
I can't tell you how many great creative ideas I've come up with while I'm meditating. Like once I'm sitting down on the cushion, just like breathing, all of a sudden these ideas start popping up and I'm just like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And it's just like, so like letting yourself quiet down and just because you literally have all the creative ideas within you. It's just you need to get rid of all this chatter and everything that's stopping them from being heard. So if you just quiet down, eventually they'll bubble to the surface.
I like too that you mentioned meditating because I think that's a great way to quiet down and to actually hear it because we're so distracted by other stuff. We also often miss it, right? And you're right. I think those creative ideas are there. We just need to let ourselves hear ourselves, which we're constantly trying to, distract ourselves from listening to. It's funny. But yeah, that awareness of our own sort of minds, our own ideas, and taking them seriously, I think is important. So that's it for this quick fix, right? How to be more creative, right? I think
you could say that was quick, and you could also say that was a fix. Maybe a quick
one of
fix.
the two. Hopefully both. Yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoyed it. We'll be back next week with a full-length episode. Remember, we are on YouTube now, so check our channel out. Subscribe, share, like, do all that stuff. We're also available wherever you get your podcasts. Obviously, keep listening. We enjoy it. And we'll be back next week with another full-length episode and another quick fix. Later, Andy.
Later, Danny.